Can you tell us a little bit about how this Crown basketball opportunity came up? Were you surprised that a lot of teams had to say no to a couple tournaments before they got to you? But take us through that process and maybe when this kind of developed and came together.
Yeah, I've known about the tournament and had some conversations with the people at Fox even back in the fall when they were here for a couple of football games. So I knew that they were putting this thing together. I heard about their vision. I thought it was really intriguing. I wasn't sure the timing, at that point, but really it started when we were in Kansas City. We've been playing better at the end of the year, and obviously won a couple games, made it to the quarterfinals there. And Rick George was really the main point of contact for us, and he was communicating with me and I was a little shocked that they wanted us, quite frankly, with the kind of year we had. But again, the way we were playing at the end, and Rick had asked me, would you be interested? And it's hard when you've gone through the year we went through to think clearly sometimes. But I know personally, anytime we have a chance to compete and play, and I remember a few years back when we played in the CBI, and we'll not do that again, obviously, but with that team, one of the problems we had with that team was, they kind of picked and chose when they wanted to compete. And that's not how I'm built. Like, if we got a chance to compete, let's go compete. So I know how I felt personally about it, but it's not about me. I'm the coach, I can't play. So I had to figure out where our team was. And I mentioned to Rick, like, we got to see this Big 12 tournament through, and then I'm gonna need some time to check with our guys. So it was right now we're in the re-recruitment stage anyway, so I had to resell playing basketball. And what I told our players was, if you don't want to be playing in March, you may need to look in the mirror and figure out why you're playing college basketball. And I understand that you may be tired, but I also mentioned to them, because we have spring break next week, and that was a little problematic, just from a mental standpoint of bouncing back. So I told them I'm not going to be grinding them during spring break to practice every day, but let's get ready for a game April 1st in Las Vegas and go let it hang out. So we said yes. Our players have bought in, and we'll go to Vegas and see what we got.
Hi, Coach. Nick Everett, CBC Sports Report. When this opportunity was presented, what were some of those conversations with your players? Like, hey, this tournament's coming up. What do you want to do? What does that look like? And how have they bought into competing in this?
Yeah, and quite frankly, there was the range of the gamut in terms of emotions, because the end of the season is always emotional, and especially when the players had no idea that this was a possibility. So when I called them, because most of those phone conversations this weekend, I got absolutely, coach, I'd love to play, and some were a little bit more reluctant, and so you start digging and selling a little bit, and some of this, you got two types of players at the end of the year. You got the returning players, and you got the seniors, and they are both in a totally different spot mentally. And so we've talked to all of them. I've actually had meetings with all our returning players yesterday. I've got the seniors today. I've got a couple more here after this. So, but some guys were excited. Some guys were a little reluctant, but I think they're excited now. And so it was an interesting process. And I probably should have given them a little bit more of a heads up, but it kind of came together okay.
Oliver Hayes, 24/7 Sports. Throughout the season, things were obviously disappointing, but in the Big 12 tournament, things came together. How exciting is it to have another chance to, now that things have come together, to show what this team can do, even though things have kind of felt like time's run out a little bit?
I'm very excited. And again, I felt, yesterday when I met with the team and the guys that are coming back and the guys that are going to play, I mean, my excitement level is good. I'd like to practice today. Now, the players don't want to do that, and I totally understand that. So we'll get some workouts in this week, and we'll practice next week a little bit as we prepare for our game with Villanova. But no, I mean, I'm extremely excited to be playing, and I think our players are too. It's we'll have some guys that won't play, and Sebastian Rancic, who hurt his knee in the Big 12 tournament, is probably questionable. Don't know if he'll be ready. Julian Hammond will probably not play. He's been dealing with a back issue, so not that he doesn't want to, he just feels like he needs some rest. And so we'll have our roster kind of put together here in the next, by the end of today, figure out what we got. We got enough to go play and compete, but I'm looking at it in two ways. Number one, giving our seniors that want to play a chance to continue to play, but also use it as a springboard into next year with the returning players. And that's, to me, that's what I'm excited about. And I always say, if I'm not excited at the beginning of the season, if I'm not excited at the end of the season for next season, it's time for me to get out. And but I'm not there. I'm excited.
Right here.
Coach, Pat Graham, Associated Press. I was honored we asked J.R. Payne this question also. Every job has things you like about it and things you don't like about it. I guess, what's your happiness level with the NIL and transfer portal and all the things that go with that, as opposed to 5 years ago?
That's a great question, Pat. And it's something I want to talk about a little bit later. But look, you have to change. You have to adapt. If you're not willing to adapt and change, you know, this business will eat you up. And so, you know, as I look at my 30-plus year career now as a Division I basketball coach, there's been a lot of changes. And it's, I go back to, can we recruit young men who have the same value system that we have as a program, that you want to coach, you want to be around? And as long as I can do that, and I've got the energy and the health and everything that it takes to do it, I'm going to do it. This team this year, the wins and losses were not where we want to be, but what an enjoyable group, and what a great, satisfying feeling to finish, you know, in the top 8 of the league when we finished 16th in the regular season. So, and they never gave up. They stuck together, and they're great kids. We didn't have one knucklehead on the team this year that I did not want to come and coach and practice. So that says something about who we've recruited. Now we got to continue to recruit at a higher level to have success in this league, and we know that, and our players know that, and that's what the next chapter will be after this tournament's over, or actually during and before the tournament starts and after it's over, because it started already.
Hey, Tad, just a couple things. This is obviously not the year that you wanted, but you made it through and kept the guys together. And at the end of the year, you did start to really turn the ship around. What do you attribute that to specifically? The
character of our players. Absolutely, unequivocally, the character of our players. And to me, character is something that's revealed when you lose, and it's revealed when you're dealing with adversity and disappointment like we dealt with all year. And I would say all year, but certainly in January and February. But yeah, when you got kids that have character and they don't point fingers and they look in the mirror, and sometimes you don't like what you see, sometimes I don't like what I see, you know, you got to be able to do it and be honest with yourself and figure it out. And our guys started to figure it out at the end. So well, I learned a lot this year. I think our players did too.
I was going to ask you about that. I'm sure you've had tons of time to reflect, and obviously when things don't go right, you know, what can I do, what can we fix? What did you take from this year overall?
Well, I think what I took is, you know, when you go through a year like this, it makes you appreciate how hard it is to win, number one. And number two, the players that have come before that have kind of made it look easy, so to speak. You know, it makes you appreciate the guys you've coached in the past that have got this program to the level that it's gotten to. And now our challenge is to maintain it. And I said this 15 years ago when I was hired here, you know, my goal is to build a sustainable program at the University of Colorado. And I think we've done that, save for maybe this year and one other. So got to keep plugging.
Go ahead.
Hey, Dad. Tyler King with Denver Gazette. 2 questions for you. Just first building off Pat's question a little bit. I remember you mentioned a couple weeks ago you not going to vote for Big 12 Coach of the Year because you didn't know what everybody's NIL budget
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
Just,
no, I was dead serious
no,
about it.
I believe you. I'm sure you obviously don't have all of the information, but where do you feel like you guys are in terms of that space as compared to the rest of the conference, and where do you still need to get to over the next couple of years?
Tyler, I don't know the answer to that question, and I wish I had it. And quite frankly, for you guys to do your jobs to the best of your ability, you probably need it. But I don't have it, and I don't know how I'm going to get it. But I just believe that, you know, we're getting ready for, you know, spring training's going on, right? Like, we know what the Kansas City Royals payroll is. We know what the New York Yankees payroll is. Like, and then we can judge whether the Royals have a better year than the Yankees based upon that. Like, at the end of the day, you know how we're judged, is wins and losses. And there's just as many coaches losing their jobs this year as there have been in years past, and that won't stop or continue, and I don't expect it to. And I'm not complaining about that. I think how we're judged needs to change.
And the second part of that is that conversation we had right before the end of the season was you said you guys need to consistently have NBA players to compete at this level. That hasn't changed from the Pac-12, obviously. Does it at all sting as a coach when you have someone like a Nick Clifford who maybe you didn't get the most out of him here, but he goes on and becomes that somewhere else? How do you go through that?
No, look, number one, I'm really proud of Nick, and he's having the career and the year that we thought he could have when we recruited him out of Colorado Springs. He just finished it at Colorado State. And it's funny you bring up Nick, because I have his stat line on my whiteboard in my office that I went through with our players yesterday that were returning. And it had his field goal percentage, his three-point field goal percentage, his free throw percentage, his assist turnover ratio the last year he was here. And his name's not on it. And he played 22 minutes a game that year. He started 33 out of 35 games. And it wasn't a good year for Nick. But you know what it taught me is, here it is 2 years later, and he's going to be an NBA player, next year. I don't know where he'll get drafted or, how that's all going to shake out. But he's had a heck of a career, and it reaffirms to me it's a process. It took Nick Clifford 5 years to have this year, and it doesn't happen 1 year or after 2 years or sometimes even after 3 years. And maybe he needed a fresh start. I know our signing of Cody Williams had a lot to do with Nick leaving. It wasn't because he didn't like Colorado or Colorado didn't like him. He felt like he needed a fresh start. I respect that. I'm happy for him. He's a wonderful person, wonderful family, and I couldn't be happier for him. So, but it's interesting you bring him up, because that's something I'm talking about with our players. They've heard the Derek White story. They've heard the Jabari Walker story and the Spencer Dinwiddie story, and all the stories that we have to tell in the recruiting process. But now, what our players need to understand and hear is that you can still get to where you want to get. It's just going to take some time, and you have to respect the process. And in today's world, those kids see that exit sign, and it's blinking pretty darn loud for them, and they're hitting it a lot quicker and faster than they used to. And I'm trying to slow it down a little bit and make them understand you got to put in the time, you got to put in the effort, and the grass sometimes may look greener, sometimes it may be, many times it's not. So for every, Nick Clifford is a great story, for him. How many guys have transferred and it hasn't worked out? And the transfer has always been a part of college basketball, always will be. Football too, it's just part of it. I'm not trying to get away from that. I'm just trying to get my arms around it a little bit, especially in today's climate. And it's harder and harder.
Ted, I've kind of joked with you in the past about being a head coach, you've got to be John Wooden and Dr. Phil, right? Right? And you've always had to attend to personalities. But now with the transfer portal, with NIL, with guys maybe knowing what somebody else is getting, how much more difficult has that been for you and his staff to kind of manage that aspect of it?
Really hard, Mark. What's the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. And I think you guys go through it, I'm sure, in your business. We go through it in our business as coaches. Now the players are going through it. And it's one thing for a 62-year-old man like me to go through it, and I still go through it. We all do. We're human beings. But for an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid to go through it, and then to have people in his ear, and it gets back to the value system, the value of loyalty, the value of sticking to the process, the value of finishing what you started, and those sorts of things. And again, there's reasons to change and move and leave jobs, and there's reasons to stay. And we got to figure out, why did you come here? Why should you stay, or should you leave? And those are the conversations I'm having with the players right now. And so it's more challenging, there's no doubt about it, because there's so many more things that they have to think about, and it makes it more challenging, and there's a lot more movement. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not saying we're going to change that. I want to talk about how we can maybe slow it down for some of these young people so they don't make bad decisions. And I'm not going to stop that, but I'd like to minimize it at the University of Colorado in the basketball program.
Okay, we're going to go Max here, and then we'll go over to Mark.
You spoke about springboarding kind of all for the college basketball crown tournament. More specifically with the freshmen, more specifically with that, Sebastian Ranchik, what type of offseason does he have to have, like, over the offseason?
Well, I think, number one, every player in our program, has to have the kind of off-season. And as I look back, getting back to the earlier questions, I look back at this year's team, I think some of the returning players thought it might be a little bit easier than it was. Obviously, we changed leagues. We get that. Big 12 is a good league. The Pac-12 was a good league. So, it's not like we jumped up a huge level. Certainly it's more physical, there's no doubt about that. It's refereed differently, there's no doubt about that. But now we've been through it, and so those guys know now. Sebi, before he came here, Felix before he came here, any freshman, Andrew Crawford, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're getting into. The returning players didn't know. Now they do. So it's imperative that the returning players that we have great off seasons. And again, I'm using the Nick Clifford example. We don't have anybody on our team that had those kind of numbers this year, but I don't know if they can have the kind of year he had this year either, but we just got to improve at every position. So whether it's Sebastian Ranchik, Felix Casares, Andrew Crawford, anybody, Bangat Dak, you name it, Sanjo, we all have to get better. Elijah Malone played really, really well down the stretch. I thought he really started to figure things out. It was a big jump for him coming from NAIA basketball to the Big 12. But now he knows what to expect. So a great offseason from him. Every one of our players has to have that. The returning players got to give us a boost here and there. And then we've got to probably sign one or two guys in the transfer portal. And we got to get some guys that can help us.
Okay, we're going to go Mark, and then Brian, and then we're going to end this session. So go ahead, Mark.
Whether it's Villanova or Virginia, some very successful coaches from your generation in the past recent months basically said, This is not for me.
Right.
Why is it still free?
Mark, I don't know why. I just feel the fire in the belly still. And as long as that's burning, I'm gonna try to fight and scratch and claw and give everything I have to this university and this program. And the ship has sailed as far as me going somewhere else or trying a new start. So I don't even think about that anymore. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about it. But it's funny. Tony Bennett and I had a voicemail exchange, and he left me one of the nicest, kindest voicemails I've ever gotten. And I understand why he chose to do what he did. And a lot of other coaches are in that same boat right now. But I don't want to let this game chase me out. I'd like to go out on my own terms. I'd like to go out strong, not limp out. But the fire's still there, and I wish I could tell you why. I don't know why, but I'm glad it is. I want to play some golf this spring and summer, but I don't want to play every day yet. So.
Hey, Coach, I want to go back to this tournament you guys are going to. I covered that CBI that you were in.
Yeah.
There was that third tier feel to it, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that this doesn't have that feel? I mean, it's in Vegas, you got some teams that think they should be playing in March Madness this week. Was that at ease yourself or your players? And then the second part of that, do you think this is maybe a model that gains some traction, becomes an even bigger event as years goes on?
I think so, Brian. Yeah, number one, yes, it was a factor, without a doubt. I mean, Las Vegas is a great basketball city. Obviously, we had our conference tournament there the last 13 years. Players like it, fans like it. Great facilities, great hotels. You know, there's lots of things. Obviously, you're going there to play basketball, so you're not going there to gamble or go to nice restaurants, but you're going to, you know, compete against really storied programs. Villanova is a storied program. You know, if we get a chance to get by them, we might, you know, get a chance to play Tulane, a great institution, USC, an old rival in the Pac-12. So, yeah, it was a big factor in it. And I do think Fox, it'll be interesting. The timing with the transfer portal opening for us on the 24th makes it a little challenging. But look, we got big staffs. I got 5 assistant coaches. We can handle game planning and practicing and also recruiting at the same time. So, yeah, it was an easy sell for me, and our players now are on board, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Okay, so this ends the on the record